Joining us now, former Virginia governor, my good friend, and now becoming a regular here on the John Fredericks Show across Virginia, Jim Gilmore. Governor, great to have you.
Good morning, John. Nice to talk to your listeners.
Now, I know you're fired up. You're involved in some of these Senate races. Give us, you've been around politics, Governor, a long time. You were thinking about running for president once. I remember that. I was in Georgia. I would have backed your campaign hands down. So you've been around the block. Do you see a tsunami out there? Do you see a trend? Do you feel it?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a change, and there ought to be a change. I listened to, Mark Warner's ad on your show just a few minutes ago, and, he suggested he was taking some leadership to correct some of the economic problems. I'll be darned if I see it. I just don't see any proposals out there from Mark Warner or anybody in the Democratic majority to get wages up, to get jobs being created. These are the challenges facing the country today, and there's just no leadership out of the Democratic majority in the Senate, and it's time for a change, which is why I have intervened in this and several other races with a new PAC that I've put together to support growth, economic growth in this country, and really do something about it. And I think that Ed Gillespie is necessary if we're going to have that change. I think it's really important for Hampton Roads. Hampton Roads has been suffering a lot of a loss of employment because of the military downturn,
right?
And it's time for a change.
Right. Now, you know what, Governor, it's interesting that you talk about growth and, who's the growth candidate. I remember working for the Forbes campaign for president in 96, I believe, and he got into that race and said, there's all these people running for president. Nobody's talking about how to get the economy to grow. And so give our listeners your views, why you're involved in this, why you've weighed in, and what policies do we need for economic growth?
First of all, we have to have a commitment to it. What we're seeing right now at the national level, everything we're doing is anti-growth. Everything we're doing is wrong for growth. We're making businesses pay more money for their investments. We're making investors pay more taxes for the money that they invest, which means they'll invest less. We're seeing major regulatory procedures being put into place, which are heavier burdens on business. And, for your listeners, you just need to know that the more burden you put on businesses, the fewer jobs that businesses will create. And I think it's an attitude problem. You saw that Hillary Clinton said the other day that businesses don't create jobs. That's just bunk. She just doesn't understand any economics at all. So what we need is an affirmative, aggressive program starting with a tax reform. And let's start with the fact that our businesses pay the highest corporate tax rate in the world,
right,
even though we compete on an international basis.
Right.
And everybody in Hampton Roads ought to know that. You got one of the big ports of the world right there. Let's boost up some of this international competition and get our businesses on a level playing field. No leadership coming out of Mark Warner or anybody else in the Democratic Senate in order to make that change. It's time for a change.
Governor, you ran against Mark Warner in 2008. That was one of the tougher campaigns that you've had. But things have changed from 2008 to 2014. Why do you think Mark Warner is vulnerable now?
Well, I think first of all, I don't know if he's vulnerable this year or not. He's pretty well ensconced. He's a rich man. He's got a lot of money buying advertising, like we just heard on your station. But the fact is that the people of Hampton Roads understand that there's a need for a better future than we're getting. We understand that we have to build up business. We understand that we have to get more jobs. The young people coming out of our colleges, like places like Old Dominion and Christopher Newport and Virginia State and Norfolk State, need to have a better opportunity in life. And that means that we need to build up the economy with an affirmative program to do that. We're just not seeing it.
Let's get to some of the other races that you've invested in. I mean, Virginia right now, Governor, frankly, we just saw a new Roanoke College poll came out the other day. Mark Warner comfortably up by 13. There's 6 days to go. There's no survey out there that says Gillespie has a shot in shutting this gap down. And right now he's running under E.W. Jackson, who is the new Virginia floor, basically. So let's go to some of the other races you've invested in. Can you kind of give us a rundown on that and then what your assessment is of each of those?
Well, sure. I've formed the Growth PAC, and I'm asking people to contribute to it. You can go to a webpage, growthpac.org, and I've had success with raising some money. I put in some of my own finances to help. and we're buying advertising in 3 states right now, and that's television and radio in Virginia, and in Iowa, and in New Hampshire. And as of this morning, we raised enough money to, frankly, begin to advertise on radio in North Carolina also. So we're out there really pushing for a change in this country because that's what I believe in. I believe that we have to build up the economy. Frankly, we have national security challenges facing this country that are very serious, and we're not going to be able to face the challenges that are facing us in the 21st century unless we build up the economy. So I've put together some principles for international relations. I think we have some serious dangers to address. I've had a lot of experience with it as an Army veteran, as a person who chaired the National Commission on Homeland Security for the United States. And many of those proposals that we put together faced the issue of a potential pandemic or bio-attack. Well, now we see a naturally occurring attack with Ebola that's not being all that effectively addressed, in my view. And I think that it's time for a change. We need to make some changes, and that's why I'm investing in television advertising in places like Iowa and New Hampshire.
Well, I think that's going to make a lot of sense. Look, I predicted the upset in New Hampshire for some time. I think Scott Brown, former senator from Massachusetts, running a great race, has some key issues that I think he's been able to put out there. Same thing in Iowa. I think Joni Ernst has turned out to be a fabulous candidate, a solid conservative. She's pro-growth also. I think she's going to win that. Republicans elected to Congress that understand you've got to grow the economy, and you can't do that through just more government intervention. I got to get back to this statement, Governor, that Hillary Clinton said the other day. I mean, I found it to be a bizarre remark where she said, businesses and corporations don't create jobs. Let me ask you, well, if businesses and corporations don't create jobs, who does? The government?
Well, she's just wrong. I think this is just a bizarre statement that, comes from the old Hillary that was in Wellesley and was a radical, and I think she's going to be a radical if she's elected president. I think it's pretty key that we not have another Clinton in the White House. It's time for a change there, too. We seem to always want to run the same candidates over again and then expect a different result. The time has come to really do something to build up this economy of the United States and get us ready for the international challenges that we face, but most importantly, just to get people an opportunity to have a better quality of life, which is why I formed this. By the way, I misspoke a few minutes ago. It's growthpac.com. So people will go to that webpage. They can see the television advertising I'm putting on in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Virginia.
Growthpac.com, Iowa, New Hampshire, and Virginia. Governor, if we can, do you mind if I just love to get your take? Can we run down some of these races and
sure.
Just kind of get your take on, because I'm predicting right now Republicans gain 9 seats. Let's start with New Hampshire.
Well, what's happened there is that Scott Brown has come on very fast. It's been a bit of a surprise. When you've got an incumbent, it's hard to beat him. But I've been advertising there because I think that Scott Brown would once again help our growth program that we're trying to produce for the United States. And I think he's coming on fast. It's almost a tie now, and some polls even show him ahead in New Hampshire.
Okay, let's go to Iowa.
Well, that's the closest race of them all, and I'm advertising there also. And in order to support Joni Ernst, I think she's likely to win. It looks like that she's been ahead consistently by 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. I think as people decide here on Election Day that their future is more important than a lot of these, these sort of party loyalties, then I think at that point that Joni Ernst is going to win.
All right, how about one race that's keeping me up at night, North Carolina? Tom Tillis, I thought he would be ahead by a little more now, but he has finally pulled even with Kay Hagan in the final week. How do you see that?
Well, as I said a little while ago, I'm actually cutting a tape this morning to do some radio for Tom Tillis in North Carolina. I'm going to start that because we're having such success raising money that we're able to buy some advertising. That's exactly 50-50 race. I think he has a very good chance of winning. I think it's a very tough race, but I think that he has a very good chance of coming through, and that's why I'm going to spend some money in North Carolina.
Okay, so if you win those, Republicans are also going to win South Dakota, Montana, West Virginia. What do you think of the Alaska race?
First of all, those three races you mentioned are, I think, settled for the Republicans.
Right.
We have to get 6. We have to pick up a net 6, and those 3 start you right off. I think Alaska is pretty clearly going to go Republican. That makes 4. Looks like we're going to win Arkansas.
You're going to win Arkansas.
That makes 5, and then Colorado. It's pretty clear that Mark Udall is behind and isn't catching back up again, the incumbent, and so that makes 6.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like that any of the states that were threatening to flip are going to flip. It looks like both McConnell and Kentucky, and let's see, what's the additional race?
David Perdue, Georgia.
Yeah, well, that is tough, but I think that he's ahead.
He's
running.
Look, Governor, there's no math that elects Michelle Nunn senator in Georgia in this environment. I don't care what they say. And if the Libertarian carries them to a runoff, Perdue would beat Nunn in a runoff 55-45, just like Saxby Chambliss clobbered little Jimmy Martin in 2008.
Yeah, and then the one I was reaching for was Roberts in Kentucky. It looks like that he's now, as it turns out, is going to win too. And so there will not be a flip in Kansas. There will not be a flip in Kansas, which means that we're going to hold all of our seats and then pick up the ones you and I just talked about. I think it looks like we're going to take the majority in the United States Senate, and that's fine. At that point, maybe we can get some initiative going to do something to build up the economy and get jobs and growth going. It's been years now, 6 years. We've seen no initiative out of Mark Warner, no initiative out of the Democratic Senate. So, even the Democrats in my listening, there's no reason why we can't cross party lines and do something to help the country with a real growth initiative. I would support a Democratic initiative for growth if there was more on the table.
Me too.
So let's get going.
Let's get. What could be interesting, and also we forgot to mention Louisiana, where Mary Landrieu has survived 3 times. I don't think she's going to survive this runoff. She's 42%. You get to that runoff in December, I think Cassidy is going to win. He's going to beat Manus, but the Manus people are not going to vote for Mary Landrieu. I mean, when you're a 3-term incumbent and you're at 42%, I don't think that bodes well.
I think that's right. So in sum, what's going on here? It may very well be that the partisan gridlock that we've seen over the last number of years is beginning to logjam break. And it might be the people, instead of thinking about their own senator or their own governor, are thinking in terms of what is in the best interest of the nation and the new directions that have to be taken.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. There's a bigger picture. Now, under this scenario, we just basically outlined 10 seats that the Republicans can pick up, that they're either ahead or they're tied, and there's a win to their back. So they could win 10. I think it's going to be 9 because something might happen, but it could be up to 10. Virginia, not really one of those. But this is what's interesting. I want to get your take. Mark Warner talks a lot about working on the other side of the aisle. I covered him when I covered Saxby Chambliss when he was doing the Gang of Six. But everything he ever tried to do, Reid squashed it. Now, if Senator Warner gets reelected and McConnell is the majority leader, Republicans have control, doesn't that essentially, in reality, put Mark Warner in a very powerful position, because now he could be one of the guys that actually crosses over and works with the Republicans?
Well, there hadn't been any record of that. It's been a consistent support for President Obama's policies. And, again, it's not the Obama the man. It's, even though I think that there could be more decisive leadership out of the White House, it's the fact that there just hasn't been any initiatives to really have any serious growth of the economy. That just hasn't been happening. So I think that at that point, the Republican majority, that really doesn't need Mark Warner at that point. Every initiative has really been just amounting to a press conference up to this point. That's really about all there is. And there's been no serious initiative to pick up jobs. So people in Hampton Roads, you got to ask yourselves, what do you want for your future, for yourselves and for your children? And I think that the status quo is not good enough. I just believe that we have to do something to build up the economy. That's why I'm taking this initiative. The president has carried Virginia twice, but at some point, people have got to say, well, I'm tired of voting just my normal routine processes. It's time to actually do something to help myself and my family and my children and my country. And I think this is that moment.
All right. We want to thank former Governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore, for being with us. Hey, you want more info, get involved. Here's what you need to do. Go to growthpac.com, growthpac.com. Get involved. Governor, great to have you, sir.
Great. Thanks for the chance to talk to Hampton Roads.